أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. عباد الله، أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله وطاعته، وأحذركم وإياي عن عصيانه تعالى ومخالفة أمره. يقول الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: من عمل صالحا فلنفسه ومن أساء فعليها وما ربك بظلام للعبيد. We begin, my dear brothers and sisters, by emptying our hearts and minds from all of the thoughts and emotions that course through them as we sit silently in contemplation of the Almighty God and Creator. And in this state of inner peace, we can feel more keenly the presence of our Lord and God and Creator. And in this state, we feel our hearts submit in prostration before the presence of Allah, and we declare and bear witness that there is no God but God, the one God, the Almighty, the All-Merciful, All-Compassionate, Creator of the heavens and the earth, and light of the heavens and the earth. And we complete this testimony by bearing witness that our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his noble prophet and messenger, whom Allah sent for no other purpose than as a mercy to the worlds, a mercy reflecting Allah's attributes of the merciful and the compassionate. We invoke Allah's blessings, greetings, and salams upon the soul of this noble prophet and messenger, upon his noble companions who bore witness to him in person and who fought with him to ensure that the message of Allah would be firmly rooted and expanded throughout the world. Upon his noble family and upon all of those who followed them through succeeding generations until the end of all time, inshallah. God has declared in his noble book that whoever of you commits good does so for his own self and to his own benefit. And whoever commits a wrong or sins has only sinned and against himself. For your Lord is not unjust to his servants. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, I would like to give a talk based upon a presentation that the late Professor Ali Mazrui gave almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago, in fact, in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And in it, he made a number of important observations. So I'll basically give a slightly edited version of his presentation. In this, he says there are two ways of trying to understand what Islam is all about. One way amounts to interpreting Islam theologically, that is, what do the rules say? The other method of research is an effort to interpret Islam historically, that is, what have the Muslims done in history? Theological Islam is a matter of doctrine, whereas historical Islam is a matter of experience. Theological Islam is profoundly distrustful of secularism, viewing it as a space where God's laws are not supposed to apply. Such a concept is doctrinally alien. Historical Islam, on the other hand, has interpreted secularism not as a space where God's laws do not apply, but as a space where God's laws are permissive in varying degrees. The degrees of permissiveness are given by the 5 categories of action of permissiveness. Halal, where something is permitted. Makruh, something is disapproved of or disliked, but not forbidden. Sunnah, which is something recommended by the Prophet, but not obligatory to be done. Haram, something which is truly forbidden, and fard or wajib, something that is obligatory. So secularism is not a domain of God in absentia, but the domain of God's indulgent permissiveness, the divine green light. Historical Islam has distinguished between separating church or mosque from the state on one side and separating religion from politics on the other side. Separating church from state is doable because this is an institutional differentiation. Separating religion from politics is not doable. This is behavioral separation in the actions of individuals. And he gave us an example. The Republic of India is an example of a secular state, separating church or temple from state. But political behavior in India is constantly affected, reinforced, or disrupted by religious factors. India has separated the temple from the state, but has not really separated religion from politics in the hearts of the masses. England, on the other hand, has not separated church from state. The late Queen was both head of state and governor of the Church of England, and now the King, of course, King Charles. The Archbishop of Canterbury is appointed by the King and is chosen with the participation of the Prime Minister. And major doctrinal changes in the Church of England need at least the tacit approval of the British Parliament. But although the British have not separated church from state, they have remarkably succeeded in separating religion from politics in the domain of individual behavior and the political reality on the ground. During the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and of the first four caliphs, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Umar, and Ali, there was neither separation of mosque from state institutionally, nor a separation of religion from politics behaviorally. The political secularization of Islam historically began with the royalization of Islam, the establishment of kings and sultans, starting with the dynasties of the Umayyads, followed by the Abbasids and onwards. The Umayyads reigned from 661 to 750 of the Christian era, and the Abbasids from 750 to 1268 of the Common Era. It became clearer across the centuries that there was a caliph or a khalifa presiding over the Muslim Ummah on one side, and a sultan presiding over the affairs of the state on the other. In the Christian Bible, the command is, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's." In historical Islam, this injunction became translated as, "Give unto the caliph what is the caliph's, and unto the sultan what is the sultan's." The royalization of Islam was de facto a process of partial political secularization, separating the caliphate from the sultanate. And Mustafa Kemal Ataturk put an end to the caliphate on March 3rd of 1924. Religious values in the society as a whole remained very strong. What made Islam at the time compatible with the spirit of modernity was Islam's own spirit of creative synthesis. Islam was prepared to learn philosophy from the Greeks, architecture from the Persians, mathematics from the Indians, jurisprudence from the Romans, and to synthesize what was borrowed with Islam's own core values. That was a modern spirit. The Muslim world went modernist long before the West did, but then the Muslim world relapsed into pre-modernization. The ancient modernist phase of Islam has left its mark on the subsequent modernization of the West. The marks of Islamic modernism on the English language today include words borrowed from the Arabic, like algebra, zero, tariff, and admiral. To recapitulate, Islam was born pre-modern, but receptive to modernism. Then it went modernist in the heyday of its civilization. Then Islam relapsed into pre-modernism, where it has been stuck to the present day. Islam will return to the spirit of modernism when it returns to the spirit of creative synthesis, learning from others, letting others learn from Islam, and maintaining Islam's own core of authenticity. When we turn now to a civil society, once again, Islam should be interpreted either theologically, identifying its laws and rituals, or interpreted historically, identifying how Muslims have lived and behaved across the ages. Of course, the theology and the history intersect repeatedly. For example, Islam is pro-profit, but anti-interest. This dual doctrine had consequences for civil society. Doctrinal opposition to interest led to the shrinking of a money-lending class in the history of Islam. The potential rudiments of a banking system were thus aborted at birth. On the other hand, Islamic green light for profit-making influenced the souk, or the marketplace culture, in the political economy of Islam. The caravan linking one civil society with another encouraged trade across the Sahara Desert and stimulated the dhow trade across the Red Sea to Africa and across the Indian Ocean to East Asia and Southeast Asia. Transcultural trade helped to propagate Islam across huge cultural and geographical distances. Islam's paradox of pro-profit and anti-interest also resulted in the complex culture of awqaf, a variety of charitable bequests whose civil society beneficiaries ranged from schools and clinics to de facto chambers of commerce, from social clubs for young people to graveyards for the poor. The mosque itself is, in some Muslim countries, a major institution of civil society. In major cities like Tehran and Cairo, the mosque sometimes tries to care for the homeless, either with free food or with shelter during rainy or cold seasons. And in sacred months like the fasting month of Ramadan, or the pilgrimage month and Ashura month of Muharram, the mosque can become a preeminent refuge for the poor and the homeless. Some of the awqaf in Egypt were for the education of girls and women to prepare them for clear roles in civil society. Theological Islam has seemed to discourage women from performing high governing roles over men. However, historical Islam, starting from the great political influence of the Prophet Muhammad's widow, Aisha, has repeatedly propelled women to offices of power and influence. Currently the largest Muslim country in population, Indonesia, had a woman head of state, Megawati Sukarno Putri. In Bangladesh, both the Prime Minister's office and the role of the leader of the opposition have been alternating between two women, Khalida Zia and Hasina Wajid. In Pakistan, the late Benazir Bhutto headed two governments before. And in Turkey, a Muslim country with a secular state, there was once a woman prime minister, Tansu Çiller. 4 Muslim countries have had female heads of state or heads of government long before the United States has had a woman president, Italy a woman prime minister, France a woman president, Germany a woman chancellor, or Russia a woman head of state. The United States has tried to protect religious minorities in the civil society through a separation of church and state. And yet, after 200 years, the United States has only once strayed from the Protestant fraternity, actually a second time now with Biden. John Kennedy was elected in 1960 by the slimmest of margins. The United States has never elected a Jew to the White House and may never elect a Muslim for president for a while yet. Islam has protected its religious minorities, not through separation of church from state, but through ecumenicalism and the tolerance of Ahl al-Kitab. During the Ottoman Empire, Christians attained high office. Suleiman I, who ruled from 1520 to 1566, had Christian ministers in his government, as did Salim III, who ruled from 1789 to 1807. Mughal Emperor Akbar in India, who ruled from 1556 to 1632, integrated Hindus into government. And Saddam Hussein in Iraq had a Chaldean Christian, Tariq Aziz, as his deputy prime minister. Egypt nurtured Boutros Ghali, a Coptic Christian, through its foreign ministry and helped him to become the Secretary General of the United Nations. The Republic of Senegal in West Africa, over 90% Muslim, repeatedly elected Leopold Senghor, a Roman Catholic, as president. Muslim societies have used ecumenical tolerance as a protection of religious minorities in their civil societies. In conclusion, Professor Ali Mazrouei says, Senegal's degree of ecumenicalism in its first half century of independence constituted a degree of secular modernism far ahead of the level reached by any contemporary Western society. Where in the entire Christian West is it even conceivable for a Muslim to be elected president or prime minister? Although we are seeing things like this as Count Hamza Yusuf as the head of Scotland. It's happening. Even in those Western societies like France, where the Muslim population is much larger than the number of Christians in Senegal, a Muslim would have a hard time being elected president of the Republic. In the political culture of Muslim Senegal, we see signs of the historical proposition that Islam went modernist long before the Western world did. Most of the Muslim world then relapsed into a pre-modernist culture of legalistic lethargy and social conservatism. But even today, elements of modernist Islam can be found in unexpected places, from poverty-stricken Bangladesh, ready to follow women in hijab as prime ministers, to post-colonial Senegalese Muslims ready to elect a Christian for executive president. I have a couple of observations to make about this presentation of Professor Mazrouei. One, the point that Islam was modernist is, in my opinion, a natural accompaniment of a God-centric perspective. Because every time God reveals through a prophet, and the Quran asserts that Allah revealed through countless prophets and not a community there is where Allah did not send a messenger. So every time Allah sends a messenger, as he says in the Quran, he sends a messenger to speak to his community in their own language, in their own social and cultural context. And therefore, in a sense, every revelation is a modernist reinterpretation of Allah's eternal faith. So God is, by definition, modernist and progressive in every time he reveals his religion. This happened with every religion, with every prophet, one after the other. And if you follow, in fact, Islamic jurisprudence, the Muslim jurists, especially the founders of the madhahib, were very much modernist. Why? Because they interpreted the laws of Islam to fit their cultural societies. And we all know, any student knows of Islamic law, knows that Imam al-Shafi'i altered some of his fatwas when he moved from Syria to Egypt. So it is a principle of Islamic jurisprudence that the jurisprudence has to be interpreted to fit the time and the social and legal context of the place. So in a sense, Islam is structurally and jurisprudentially modernist and progressive. And this is a point I want you to bear in mind, brothers and sisters, as we will be discussing next week, the next week or two, aspects of the importance of looking at Islam from such a modernist perspective. In fact, this is also in accordance with the teaching of Imam Ali, the saying of Imam Ali, where he told people to educate your children from a time different from your own. This is very much an expression of a modernist and progressive understanding of Islam. And Imam Ali was one of those who understood Islam as well, if not better, than anybody else other than the Prophet. So we should take these as our exemplars and as our teachers and guides in pointing us to always look and interpret Islam in a modernist and progressive manner. Brothers and sisters, may Allah help us. May He guide us to what pleases Him. Pray to Allah that He may answer our supplications. Udu Allah Ta'ala an yastajib li wa lakum. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا كما أمر ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له المتعالي على المشاركة والمشاكلة لسائر البشر، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله النبي المعتبر. واعلموا أن الله تعالى صلى على النبي قديما، فقال تعالى: ولم يزل قائلا عليما وآمرا حكيما، تنبيها لكم وتعليما وتشريفا لقدر نبيه وتعظيما. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد، كما صليت وسلمت وباركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وارض اللهم عن الأربعة الخلفاء السادة الحنفاء المميزين بعده بالرعاية والولاة والاصطفاء ذوي القدر العلي والفخر الجلي، ساداتنا وموالينا وأئمتنا أبي بكر الصديق وعمر وعثمان وعلي. وارض اللهم عن الصديقين السعيدين السنن الشهيدين القمرين النيرين، سيد شباب أهل الجنة في الجنة وريحان نبي هذه الأمة، الإمام أبي محمد الحسن والإمام أبي عبد الله الحسين، وعن أمهما فاطمة الزهراء، وعن جدتهما خديجة الكبرى، وعن عائشة أم المؤمنين، وعن بقية أزواج رسول الله أجمعين، وعن التابعين وتابع التابعين وتابعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين. اللهم وأيد الإسلام وأعلي وانصر كلمة الحق والإيمان. اللهم اجعل خير زماننا آخرة، وخير أعمالنا خواتيمها، وخير أيامنا يوم لقائك، وارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا، ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك ولا يرحمنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم أصلح أحوالنا وبلغنا مما يرضيك آمالنا، واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا وبالسعادة آجالنا، وتوفنا وأنت راض عنا يا رب العالمين. أسأل الله العظيم رب العرش الكريم أن يغفر لي ولكم والمسلمين أجمعين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم، وأقم الصلاة.